Sarah's father asked if she still wanted her inheritance 3 days after she stopped accepting his abuse, not because he cared about her future, because he needed to punish her for drawing a boundary. The weapon he chose? A family art collection worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is the story of weaponized generosity and how narcissists turn love into a transaction you can never afford to pay. Sarah grew up in a house where criticism wore the mask of care. Her father had a gift for delivering painful jabs disguised as advice. He'd comment on her weighted dinner, question her career choices in front of relatives, predict her failures with the certainty of a prophet. When she flinched, he'd say he was just trying to help. When she cried, he'd call her too sensitive. Her mother saw everything, acknowledged it even, but she never intervened. She played the role every narcissist needs, the silent witness who confirms the abuse is real, but does nothing to stop it. Sarah learned early that her father's love came with terms and conditions. The problem was, the contract kept changing. As an adult, Sarah thought she'd figured out the formula. Keep some distance, don't share too much. Tolerate the smaller insults, ignore the bigger ones. It was exhausting, but it was survivable. She had no idea she wasn't managing a difficult relationship. She was feeding a control system that would eventually demand everything. The art collection became her father's favorite topic as she got older. He'd talk about each piece with obsessive detail. The Italian landscape from 1847. The abstract sculpture from a famous modernist. He made sure Sarah knew these treasures would be hers someday. Not because he wanted her to have them, because he wanted her to remember who held the keys to her future. Then Sarah's life fell apart in the way lives sometimes do. Her marriage collapsed. She planned a divorce, started job hunting in a new city, prepared to rebuild from scratch. This should have been the moment her father stepped up. Instead, it became his opportunity to tighten the leash. He offered to help with money, then withdrew the offer with an insult about her instability. He told relatives he'd buy her an apartment he couldn't actually afford, setting up a public narrative where he was the generous father and she was the ungrateful daughter. He called constantly with advice that all predicted the same outcome: her doom. Every conversation was an ambush disguised as concern. He told her she was making mistakes, that she was too emotional to think clearly, that she needed his guidance more than ever. The message was clear: you're falling apart and only I can save you. But his version of saving her meant surrendering completely to his control.
Sarah started to notice something chilling. His help always came with hooks.
The money he offered was really a loan of obedience. The apartment he couldn't buy was really a promise he'd hold over her forever. The advice wasn't guidance. It was colonization. He didn't want to support her through crisis. He wanted the crisis to break her enough that she'd stop resisting his control. The worst part? She could feel herself weakening. When you're drowning, you'll grab any hand that reaches down, even if that hand is attached to the person who pushed you in the water. She needed space to think, to make decisions without his voice in her head, predicting her failure, manufacturing her dependence. So Sarah did something she'd never done before. She went no contact. 18 months of silence. No calls, no visits, no updates through her mother. It felt like cutting off a limb, but it was the only way to hear her own thoughts. 3 months into the silence, her mother showed up with a message, not a letter. Not a voicemail, a question delivered in person like a legal summons. Her father wanted to know, did Sarah still want to inherit the art collection? The manipulation was surgical. He didn't call her directly. That would prove he needed her. He used her mother as a messenger, maintaining plausible deniability. He didn't threaten explicitly. He just asked a question. But the subtext was deafening. You draw a boundary, you lose your inheritance. You protect yourself, you pay the price. This is what narcissists do when you escape their orbit. They find the one thing they control that you still want, then they turn it into a weapon. Sarah realized something in that moment. The art collection was never a gift. It was always a leash, a promise designed to keep her obedient, grateful, and forever within reach of his control. As long as she believed she'd inherit those paintings, she'd tolerate the abuse, she'd answer the calls, she'd accept the insults, because someday it would all be worth it. But narcissists don't give freely. Every gift is a loan. Every promise is a collar, and the payment they demand isn't money. It's your autonomy, your boundaries, your self-respect. Sarah understood the choice her father was offering. Come back and submit, or lose what's rightfully yours. Prove your love is stronger than your self-preservation. Choose me over yourself again, forever. There's no clean ending to this story. Sarah faced an impossible decision. Walk away from generational wealth to protect her mental health, or return to abuse to claim what should have been hers without conditions. Some betrayals don't end with justice. They end with impossible choices and losses that compound forever. But here's what Sarah learned. Accepting anything from a narcissist is a trap. The inheritance would never truly be hers. It would be a monument to her compliance, a reminder that her father's love was transactional, that she was never a daughter. She was an investment he expected to pay dividends of obedience. This is weaponized generosity, a manipulation tactic where narcissists use future promises, gifts, or financial leverage as invisible chains. Here's what makes it so effective. It looks like love. Promising your child an inheritance seems generous. Offering financial help during crisis seems caring. But watch what happens when the victim draws a boundary. The gift becomes a weapon. The promise becomes a threat. The generosity was never real. It was always a control mechanism. 3 red flags to watch for in your own life. First, financial help that's offered, then weaponized during conflicts. Second, intermediaries delivering threats so the manipulator maintains plausible deniability.
Third, the phrase, "I'm just trying to help you," masking absolute control.
The dark psychology lesson here is simple but brutal. Narcissists don't give. They invest, and they expect returns paid in submission, gratitude, and the surrender of your boundaries. True love doesn't require you to accept abuse as payment. If someone uses money or inheritance to maintain power over you, the cost to your soul always exceeds the dollar amount. Sometimes the most expensive thing you own is something you're still trying to earn from someone who will never truly give it. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away from what you're owed. If you recognized any of these patterns, you're not alone. Subscribe to see the manipulation tactics most people never notice until it's too late.